And we have midterm review. Let's do this one. Actually, before that, did you guys have any questions on anything related to programming? No, cool. So, this is a midterm from a previous thing. So, write Java code to create a Boolean variable called am I smart and assign it the value true. What are you writing? Or typing? Or something? So how would you do that? Write Java code to create a Boolean variable called am I smart and assign it the value true. Public static is necessary for functions. It's not terribly bad to put it here. But Boolean, right? You put the type, then the name of the variable, and then you assign it a value, right? You could do it in 2 lines if you feel like it, but you should be able to do this in your sleep, right? Given the following code fragment, what would be the value of and at the end?
25.
Cool. Maybe. Let's see.
She already did that home.
Yes.
Ah!
She knows the answer.
Let's try it.
Don't
Int
let us try.
a equals 5 and b. Yeah, you guys get a minute to do it. 10, 9, 8. Oh wait, that's not a minute.
11 plus 25, yes.
No,
It's 24.
maybe
8 plus
5. Okay, maybe 25. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see.
24, yes.
We start a to be 5 and b uninitialized, right? Then a equals a plus 5.
10.
That's 10. A is now 10. B is 14. Increment a, so 11. And then a plus b, which is 11 plus 14, which is 25. We should believe you.
If it is A plus plus, then it
It's the exact same thing.
Oh, but what you said that there is a difference in the display.
No, the difference is if you ever use it in the middle of an expression as opposed to a statement, because they yield a different value. So if you have int a equals 5 plus a is going to increment a, right? At the end, a is going to be 6, right? But what's going to be the value that gets printed here? The value that this expression plus a yields? 6. Now, if I make a equals 5 and then do a plus plus, what's the value that's going to be yielded? 5.
Is it the same like the C++?
Yes, exactly the same. C, C++, yeah. It's C basically. Java is C++ for a bunch of things. They all copied it from C. For the most part, if you use this, right, this is important when you do int b equals a plus 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 a plus a. What is that?
1, 6,
Oh God. Okay, a is now 6, right?
6.
So this yields 6, but now a is 7. Plus this yields 8, and now a is 8. So that's 15 plus 8, 23, maybe. Oh, 22. I messed up somewhere.
A is
So A++.
A plus plus will add it on afterwards, so if you
Yes.
use A again, yeah, it will be 23. I think, right? Maybe?
Wait. A was 6, so a plus plus is 6. Sorry.
Yeah, that's still 6. But
6.
Now it will be 23 because it did it afterwards.
Oh, well, no, now it would be a lot more because I have 2.
Oh, got you, yeah.
I did 2 plus pluses, right? So a plus plus was 6, plus plus, but now a is 7. Plus plus a is 8, so it's 6 plus 8 plus 8. So it's 22, right? What is the real answer to this? Never, ever, ever write code like this. You get fired, right? There is no way in hell that you're going to understand what the heck this means. Don't be too clever, right? I mean, actually, you write code like this in data structures, the next class, where you show yourself how clever you can be, get it out of your system, and never write code like this, right? Because it's confusing as hell.
How did it become 8?
A plus plus increases the value of A, and then plus plus A increases the value of A. And A was 6.
A plus
So I increased it twice.
A plus plus was 6. Although it printed 5, but because A plus plus was there, it is 6.
A is now 8. I increased it twice. It was 6, right? Then I increased it here, and I increased it here. So now it's 8. So if I run it again, I'm going to get, A is going to be 10 at the end, because I'm increasing it here, and I'm increasing it here. And then, can I do this? A plus equals 2. No, okay. It's not that horrible. Yay. Hope it's not that horrible. In C and C++, you can, in Java, you can do that too. And that's even more confusing. Now I'm even lost as to what the heck did I do. But don't do that, right? Don't do expressions that have side effects, because it's very confusing to try to figure out what got done. Right? You only do this to confuse people. But the plus plus is sometimes used, so it's mildly useful. The main reason is that I write my loops with plus plus a instead of a plus plus or I plus plus, because it's officially more efficient, because it doesn't have to keep the old value around. It looks ugly, and the compiler will probably optimize it anyway, but. So write a function called isOdd that takes an int and returns a boolean. The function returns true if the number is odd and false otherwise. Remember, the percent operator returns the reminder, that one, of the integer division of two numbers. Always get confused between the modulo and remind you of something. Remainder. You're volunteering to do it, Tala, since you're done. Right? You're done? You're done. Why not? Why aren't you typing?
I know, like, by
Come.
C,
Yeah,
I mean, not the JavaScript.
yeah. It's not JavaScript, it's Java. Come do it. Since I didn't see you writing. Yeah. Is all, right?
Okay,
You want to define a function.
different, yeah.
The function returns a boolean and takes an int. So how do you define functions?
I mean, I just know the logic of it. Like, it's a divided by 2 greater than, like,
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah. Now you need to fill up those gaps.
Yeah.
Who's gonna volunteer? Who's gonna dictate to me? How about that? It's a function that returns a boolean and takes an int, right? So how do we start the line? What's the first word on that line? Besides maybe public static. Boolean, right, which is the return type. Then the name of the function, and then parentheses, int, whatever we want to call it, right? He said it first, so it's A. Right?
And it's odd.
Now we need to return a value.
A% return
Return A
module
modulo 2,
equals to 1.
1. Yes. Right? What do you mean?
No, it doesn't.
Right? This should work. And again, this should be automatic. We have done this 7 times, right? In like every lecture and assignment, something or another. Right? Write a function called classify age. I need to do horrible things to this because I need to download it raw. Then open it so I can cut and paste. Haha. Why aren't you typing? This is a contact port. Type. You. Tala. Yes. You're supposed to be doing it. So we can start with the skeleton, right? What does it return?
String.
Classify
String. That's his name.
classify age,
Ah.
age,
And it takes an int, which h is probably a really good thing, right? that you should be able to do without even thinking, right? That should be, by now you have defined 30 methods, right? That should be automatic. Then you start thinking, right?
If
Yeah, we use if statements, right?
If age greater than
A
equal to
greater or
equal to
0
zero.
and
Count.
age
12.
your pick.
Now, depends on how we want to do it. We can do else's or not, since we are returning, and the code may be slightly different, right? If we make it like this, we have to repeat, right?
Yeah.
And so on.
We had this switch.
Can we do a switch in this case?
We don't have actual value.
You could, right? But if you were to do a switch, let me just write stuff here and then we're gonna. If I do switch age, right? For which values am I gonna? Zero. I would need to do this and list, right? So I end up listing 120 things, right? I mean, you can, you don't want to. This is a case where a switch would not be a good idea. So this is one way to do it. Now 4. Kid, teen, adult is between 20 and 65. And then between 65 and 120, I return senior. And if nothing worked, I return invalid, right? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Why are you laughing?
120.
Sorry?
120.
Yeah, I have no clue. Yeah, above 120, you would return mummy or something like that. I don't know what the maximum age is. 120. 120 seems like safe enough, right?
If age is, it should be greater than, it should not be greater than equal to 65.
Sorry?
66.
Oh, yes. This one should be 66.
This is the mistake I did in my assignment.
Yes, that's actually, the question is wrong, right?
Same mistake I did in my assignment. So I didn't. You pointed out.
Yeah, but yeah. Now, we can do slightly better, right? By using the fact that these things are kind of mutually exclusive, right? So if we write it in a different way, we can do slightly nicer code. On a test, that is perfectly valid code, right? On an interview, that's perfectly valid code because you want to make sure that you get it right. You don't have unit tests, right? Now, I would probably write it like this. If age less than 0 or h greater than 120, return invalid. Oh, yeah. And then if, now I know that it's greater than 0, right? H less than 12, do this. Else, if, and I don't need to verify this, right? I know that it is, right?
Can we just put if and not else?
Since you are returning, yes. Right? Yeah, you can. But I would definitely write the else's because my brain wants the else's there. Oh. Actually, we can probably do, because that's not going to work. We're going to have to write this again. Because Java is going to complain. If we write it like this, Java is so smart enough to realize that we are covering every possibility. So it's going to tell us, oh, you're not returning stuff. Let me change it. In fact, it is telling me. Why? Okay, there it is. Yeah, it's telling me that there is a possibility that I'm not returning, right? Because it doesn't realize that I'm actually covering every possible value, right? It's not that smart. One way that I can do it is, oh no, because that's not going to work. I can do it like this, and that makes me. That would make me feel less worse. Right? This seems like it could work, and it just passed code review by you guys.
Couldn't you just use a switch statement instead of giving all the else's?
I can't because a switch is only for switch in Java, right? It's only for specific values. So I need to list 120 values.
You couldn't do it like with logic or.
Switches don't do logic. Switches just you switch an expression, then you say if it's this value, then do this. If it's this value, then do this. So no, a switch wouldn't work. I mean, you could do it. That's what Tala asked, right? And you could do it. It just takes you 120 cases, which is like, no. I mean, yes, theoretically you could. Given the following function, public static int foo int a, if a less than or equal to 0, return 1, else return a times foo of a minus 2. What would bar of -1 return?
1.
God, you cannot read. That's good. You're my kind of student. Did you notice? It wasn't a trick question. It was a typo. Yes, I meant foo. I meant foo, not bar.
But I already knew that. It was time for.
Right. I'm defining one function called foo, and the other one, right, the one that I asked you is bar. So, yeah. But assume that I typed the right thing. What would foo of -1 return? 1, right? what would foo of 3 return? Would return 3 times foo of 1, right? So 3.
Yeah,
Minus 2.
3 into 3 minus
3 times foo of 1,
2 is 1.
which is 3 times 1. Right?
Yeah, but does it become a recurring loop?
Yes. Well, it's recursion. It's not a loop. It's like a loop. Yes.
So how are we gonna know if it's 3? A.
Okay, you evaluate foo of 3, right?
Yeah.
You substitute foo of 3 is 3 times foo of 1, right? Now foo of 1 is 1 times foo of minus 1, right? Foo of minus 1 equals 1, so this one becomes 1 times 1, which equals 1, and this one becomes 3 times 1, which is 3. Right?
How about 5?
Yeah, let's do more. Let's do foo of 5.
15, I guess.
Sorry?
15?
Yes. How about foo of 4? So it's not just, right? Because we knew what foo of 3 was. Eight? Let's do this. And this can help. We have 2, then foo of 2 is going to be 2, right? If we have 3, we decided we were going to have 3. 4 is going to be 4 times foo of 2, and we know that that's 2, so it's 8, right? 5 is 5 times foo of 3, so it would be 15. You can do something like that. If you're calculating a bunch of them, you can create your table. So you don't have to run through the function again. Make sense? You know how to evaluate recursive functions? Cool. That one you can't do. You can't do because, yes, we haven't seen loops. Loops will not be on the test. So write a function called read between 0 to 100 that takes one parameter, a scanner, returns an int. This function prints a message for the user, okay, you should take 2 parameters then, but oh well. And reads a number. If number is not between 0 and 100, it asks and reads again until it reads a valid number. Right? How do we do that? I'll give you a couple of minutes to do it, and then we'll... You cannot use loops, right? You have to use recursion. Wait, this one is not void. Yes. Yes. What is the function supposed to do? If the function computes a value, then you need to return something. If the function only does side effects, other stuff that's not computing a value, printing stuff to the screen. In this case, right, printing to the screen is a side effect. What you really want is to get a value from the user, right? What you have to do doesn't terribly matter. You're reading a value, right? All the other stuff is kind of a side effect that you have to do, right? So that's why you're returning. If your thing is printing, then you can't use void because you're not producing a value, you're just doing stuff. Does that make sense? But it depends on what the function calls, and sometimes I do those things and tell you, right? Wait, here's the deal. Print string out is not magical. You're defining a parameter just like A or whatever, right? And except that it's a type print string, right? So if you define print string screen, then you would use screen.println or something like that. Out is not magical. I tend to use it, but it's not, right? The name is not magical.
So it doesn't matter if we use print string out, we can still use system.out.
You can, but you shouldn't. Okay, that is interesting. Let's do this and talk it in the context of this, right?
This one is,
I'm gonna cheat actually, by adding an extra parameter, right? Let's do that takes two parameters.
You can do it with one also, right?
Do want to do it with one first, and then go do it with two, and then go.
is it like our
Yeah,
last
let's do
assignment?
Yes. So it's basically, actually, let me not call it out. Let me call this actually keyboard. Let me call this screen. Right, so this gets the next one from that scanner. And then if input right? If it's a valid number, put it on it. Else, right? Actually, let me do this. And right? It's my Java application. CS 5000 now. Too many classes. Too many classes. Where am I here? Cancel. This one is ksu.cs5000. Okay. I can't run this one. So. I wasn't finding it. KSU. Okay. What's your problem? No, that's not. Oh, this horrible thing. Yes. This guy. What's wrong about it? So I say 123, 12, woohoo, right? Now, what is this important? Can I do this? Right? If I just run it like this, it would have the exact same effect. What's your problem, thinking? No arguments, no nothing. Just that's what you wanted. Okay. I messed it up. Okay. No module. Apply. Because this is not going to work either, right? That should work. Now, I need to do stuff to unmess my idea.
So we don't put system.out because system.out is not necessarily the screen.
Yes, exactly. If we do this, would it work, right? It would work as long as what I'm passing here is system.out, right? But it wouldn't if this is something else, right? So I could have something that writes through the network to a server somewhere, right? And so now it wouldn't be the same, right? In fact, when I write the unit tests, since the unit tests are not reading from the keyboard or writing to the screen, I fake those things. And so what I pass to you is not system.out. So if you program it like this, your program would appear to run if you run it from main because you're passing system.out, but it would not run. It would not pass my test because it's not doing the right thing. Does that make sense? That's why you should use the parameters.
And other question, for example, the second line, we can't use it in a void, in a public static void.
You could, yes.
So we can use it.
Void is just this, right? If it's void, what you cannot, if it's void here, right? If it returns void, what you cannot do is return a value. But everything else you can. You cannot use it if you're not passing it as an argument. But does that make sense?
And the second line is a void, public static void, in INT.
Line 79?
Yeah.
Line numbers.
We can, instead that, can we just call the function and say scanner and system in and system out. Just call it.
System.in is not a scanner.
Yes. and then-
But you could do this, right? You could do this,
yeah,
right?
not-
On the other hand, this returned a value, right? And you are not doing anything with it, right? This written, right? This returns a value, and then you just drop it on the floor. You don't do anything with it. If you were to do that here, you would actually be printing 10 that I initialize, regardless of what the user enters, right? But you can. If it's void, you have to do this because it doesn't return a value. You cannot assign it anywhere. You cannot do anything with the value. If it's not void, then you can do stuff with the value. The obvious, the simplest thing you can do is assign it to a variable. Does that make sense? Any other questions about this kind of stuff? Voids and ints and stuff like that.
So in that, instead of the keyboard and screen, we can write anything?
Where? Here?
69? Yeah.
Yes. What's a terminal word? std in, as long as you call it, right? It's a variable name, so you need to change it all over. Yes. These are just variable names, whatever you want to put, or actually parameter names, sorry, argument names, right?
And
Instead of screen, yeah, we could use something else. Monitor.
What if you just one string input is an integer, and if the question is like it was before.
Oh, without this,
Yeah, with just one parameter.
then I would be expecting you to do system.out here.
How many questions will be there?
I have no clue whatsoever, but you can see from the previous one, it depends on what you think of as a question, but it's between 5 and 10, right? Is this one question or two? It also depends on, right?
We consider that as one question.
Yeah, and this past performance is not a guarantee of future performance, just like with stocks, but this is actually an actual midterm that I gave in a given semester. So it's right. I don't start with a goal of asking you 6.5 questions or something like that, right? Write a function called power that takes two ints, say base and exponents, and returns the fixed parameters. Base raised to the exponent power. Shall we do this again? We have only done it like 6 times. Why not, right? It returns an int and takes 2 ints, right? You can name them whatever, but I'm naming them base and exponents so that I can refer to them here, right? And so it probably makes a lot of sense for you to name them the same way, right? So how can we do this? We have our base case, right? What's our base case? If exponent equals 0, right?
Return 1.
We can return what?
Base.
This times power. Exponent minus 1.
Base exponent minus 1, right? This is kind of the example of.
Are you expecting the main method as well?
No. I may ask you to write a main method, but if I ask you to write stuff like this, no.
Function can count down to the recursion. I don't understand when we switch 2 lines, it brings 1 to 5 and then 5 to 1.
Yeah. So let's. Shall we go look for it here? We had them here, right? This, right? And put it back here. R. Tala, notice this one is void because we are not calculating a result, we are just printing stuff. Low 110, right? How do I run this thing? Maybe. Is it running? Yay! So it printed down, right? Let's do 5, so we do this. Or I can put it on it. Haha. Now, how does it work? I first print the number, right? In this case, when you called me with 5, I print the number and then I call print down, which is going to print 4, 3, 2, 1, right? If I reverse these two lines, what's going to happen? It's going to call this other thing, right? Which is going to print the numbers from 1 through 4, right?
No, it's just call it. It
Calls.
doesn't have- It doesn't read the next line because it just.
Wait, calling it is what prints the numbers from 1 through 4, right? This call prints the numbers from 1 to 4. We don't know in which order, right? Or maybe. Does that make sense? That's when I do this, when I called it with 5, right? I print the number 5 and then call this function. This function prints the numbers from 1 through 4, right? 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But that's what it does. Now, if
The last, because the line before, but when you put the line before here,
when I,
print anything.
it will,
It makes sense to just print the last digit.
no, it still calls this, right? Which prints the numbers from 1 through 4 and then prints 5, right? So in order to see how it prints the numbers from 1 through 4, right, we go look at this. When you call it with 4, it's going to print the 4 and then call to print the numbers from 1 to 3. So it's going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you call print down from with 4, right? You call print down from 1, 5, right? I'm gonna skip the system.out, right? So this is gonna call 4, right? 3, 2, 1,
And then print the last.
and then it's gonna print 0, right? Now this one ends, right? And this prints 1, and then this one prints 2, and then this one prints 3. So I ended up printing it in reverse order. Or, yeah. Right? Because I'm first calling and then printing. So if I do it like this, right? It's going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sense? No?
For me, it makes sense to print one.
Just 1? And it would never print 2 and 3 and 4 and 5? Why? Because the other guys still print. When you called it with 2, it's going to call this guy, but then it's going to come and still print this guy, right? So it's still going to print 2. It's just going to do it after it prints 1 instead of before. Does that make sense? Get home, play with it, right? Play with it again. Do it with some of the other ones.
I have like a logic.
Sorry?
I have a logic problem with this.
Okay, you need to play with it until it makes sense. Yeah. We will see a bunch more recursion stuff where you have more chances of seeing how it works. But once we have other stuff, remind me later, we'll do it with lists or with trees or something like that. And just, but I didn't assign this, right? We can do one more example of recursion. We haven't done this one, right? The sum of the digits. Okay. How can we find the sum of the digits of a number? Sorry? Divided by 10, that will eliminate one digit, right? Modulo 10 gives us the last digit, right? So, first of all, what's our easy case?
Equal to 0, equal to 1.
What's the sum of the digits? 0, right? If the number is 0, right?
So what do you don't you put if n less than 10, it's gonna return n.
That would work. Less than 10, return n. Right? That works. That gives us more stuff. Yes. I like it. Now, otherwise, what do we return? What's the last digit? Or actually, let's do this. Int last digit. What's the last digit of a number? Right? What do we call that thing? First digit. This works because we are doing integer division, right? Last digit n plus some digits of first digits of n. Right?
I don't know what I'm trying.
Add up the digits. You have 123, right? What's the sum of the digits? 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6, right? So how can we do it, right? Well, if the number is less than 10, right? Then just return the number, right? If the number is 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just return that number, right? Otherwise, what can we do?
So
If the number is 8, what's the sum of the digits? 8, right? So now if it's not, if it's a 2-digit number, right? What do we do? Well, get the last digit and get the first few digits without the last one, right? And add them up, right? So I get the last digit plus the sum of the digits of the first digits, right? So the ones without.
Part, second part.
Yes.
So we identified the last, the tail, the head. How about the middle?
We don't care. It's just everything but the last and the last, right? And eventually, those become the last one, right? If you have 123, you do 3 plus the sum of the digits of 12, right? And so now that 2 became the last digit. And eventually you're going to add it, right? Maybe? Let's see. Yay, it didn't blow up.
So we first find out the last digit.
The last digit, which is 3, right? And so this is 3 plus the sum of the digits of 12, right? Which is 2 plus the sum of the digits of 1, which is now is this cool or what? What? Okay. Sorry?
What is the base case for the last digit? If
The best case is when it's a 1-digit number.
for the last digit,
Yes. When n is a 1-digit number. So 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 up to 9.
can I see? Can you
What do you mean? But
the
yeah.
last digit?
No.
Is n modulo 10?
Why are we doing this? I'm not getting the first. How do we
find the last digit of a number? If you have 123, what's the last digit? How do you know that?
Divided by 10.
How do you know that, right? Well, you don't remember this stuff anymore because now you know it, right? So you forget. For those of you who have kids, will see, right? They spend actually years going through this. It's right the units, right? So if you divide the number, if you take the modulo of the number by 10, right? That's the last digit, right? You have 120, you can divide it by 10 and you get 12, and the remainder is 3. So that's the last digit, right? If you were doing it in binary, right, what would you do? What's the last digit, last bit of a number in binary? Or whether the number is odd or even, right? That's the least significant digit. Or bit. In binary, we call them bits, right? But it's the same thing. And the first digit is not a great number, but it's not a great name, but It's all the digits except the last one. Make sense? Go play, right? I mean, in recursion, it's kind of going through the structure of a problem of a set, right? And so we have done basically counting, which is one thing we know how to do with recursion, right? So they count up and down and power and those things are basically going through the integers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And this is another thing that we can have a different structure, right? We go through numbers by looking at the last digit and everything but the last. Right? We also did strings both by counting and also head and tail. Right? And in a way, if you can do a recursion, you can do everything else. Because this involves functions and if statements, which is basically all we have covered. Right? And just variables and operators and things like that. Sorry?
Understand the recursion is a bit hard.
Yes, understanding recursion is hard. Yes. Yes, which is why you need to do another 20. I'm sorry, that's the only answer that I have. Drop and give me 20. That's how it becomes natural instead of hard. Right? It's just you haven't done that many, so it feels weird. You need to do 1,000,000 until don't try to memorize code. Unless you are really, really good, it doesn't work, and you end up producing horrible stuff on the test, right? Practice, but don't memorize the code. If you're really, really good, you can probably memorize the code enough to pass the midterm. And actually, if you are amazingly good, and some of you are, you can probably pass the class by just memorizing enough, but you will die in data structures. And it's not terribly useful to memorize stuff, right? I mean, the point is not to memorize it. The point is to do it enough that you can come up with solutions to different problems. I will see you guys eventually, one of these days, Wednesday.
Yeah.